Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, I hope you're all enjoying day 2 of Autodesk University. Just wanted to quickly introduce myself and also what we'll be showing today. My name is Tanya and I'm the marketing manager over here at Struxoft Solutions. So today we'll be showing you MWF Pro Wood. Worthy of any contractor's tool belt, MWF Pro Wood can quickly and efficiently frame your entire Revit project from the roof down to the floor, automatically producing construction quality shop drawings, cut lists, quantity takeoffs, and much more. Just want to let you guys know, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to send them through the questions tab of the GoToWebinar dashboard. We'll make sure to get to those as soon as possible. All right, I'm going to now pass it over to our senior technician, Christina, and she will dive right in.
All right, thanks, Tanya. Hey, everyone. Good morning or afternoon, wherever you are in the world. So today we're going to kind of take an exclusive look at Pro Wood, as Tanya mentioned. So for anyone who's new to Struxoft or new to MWF, MWF essentially stands for Metal Wood Framer. So we're a direct plugin into Revit, and we just need some kind of existing architectural model to get started. And we can go in, frame out the walls, floors, ceilings. We can do roof trusses as well. But basically, we just take some kind of existing model and we can convert those walls and elements for framing. So for today's purposes, we're going to kind of go through a pretty simple residential building and go through some of the basics of the software. Here is all my contact information as well as the company website and email. So if you do have any kind of questions or inquiries, feel free to reach us out through these contacts. So we'll get started, like I mentioned, with a pretty simple residential building. So for anyone who, again, hasn't really seen MWF before, MWF is essentially what we would call a template-based software. So the idea is that you can grab your walls, say create, and then you just have to pick which template you want to use to frame out those walls. Of course, we can give some default templates just to get started, but the idea is that you kind of take these kind of standard, 2x4 walls, 16 inches on center templates. You can duplicate them, customize them, and make them your own. So that's exactly what I've done here. I've got 3 extra templates that I've just gone ahead and created. So I'm going to frame this exterior wall. So I'll just go ahead and activate that particular template I want to use. And right away, it's going to go ahead and frame out the opening that I have in there. It'll get a panel ID. And if we go take a look at it in 3D, we'll actually be able to see the framing. Of course, we put in 1 panel per Revit wall, so that's what's going to keep the bounds of the panel, the height, the width. But just converting your existing Revit wall and filling it in with the framing. So if I go into the properties of the panel, just kind of like the main brain, if I can call it that, this is everything that you can kind of save to your templates. So we're in Revit, so we're just using Revit families. There's also a pretty decent lumber family that comes out of the box with the software that you can use. So if you did want to start changing out the families and choosing your stud sizes, you just have to go ahead in this pick list, play around with that. And then the bulk of your framing options are found in this miscellaneous tab. So if you did want to do things like change your stud spacing, or if you wanted to add in maybe some blocking, we've also got an option which is pretty cool to add in some Simpson hold downs, and could also put in some anchors with that. But these are all things that you can kind of customize and save to a template and reuse that template throughout your project. And it can even be exported and brought into other Revit projects. So if you do kind of reuse a lot of the same standards, we've got a big export button that'll bring in all of your custom content into your new Revit projects. So that's the idea of the software at its core. It's entirely template based. There's a lot of automation built in. And once everything is kind of said and done, you should be able to highlight your model, say create, and the bulk of the framing should be done automatically. What's also pretty cool about MWF is that it's entirely regenerable. So if something changes in your model, if I delete my window, if the wall moves, anything like that, there's an easy little regenerate button that'll refresh and it'll update the panel to meet whatever's changed in your model. So a nice little regen feature. And of course, I know I've been kind of saying everything has been built into these templates that you can set up to automate the framing, but you are still in Revit at the end of the day. So if you did want to do a few little manual changes, if you want to copy paste, we've got a slew of edit commands as well that you could always use. If ever you do want to add in a little bit of minor modifications to your walls, you can still use those Revit edits that you're comfortable with. So one of the other things I do want to talk about a little bit is the automation that you can get with the software. And if I jump back to a floor plan, I have been saying that we do kind of put in one panel per Revit wall. But if you are more on the panelizing prefab side of things and you do need to pre-assemble these walls, if you do maybe get a very long wall like I have here, something that's like 30 feet just about, we do have options that can automate the breaks for your panels. And then we do have a few options as well to automate the framing even more. So in the software, we use something called a marker. A marker is just a preloaded term that we use just to kind of preload information. And one of the markers that we have are these splits. So you can see I've already got a few thrown into my wall here. But this is another kind of point of automation that we have where we've got these split tools. If you are on the prefab business, where you can put in kind of your maximum panel lengths, your minimums. You could even incorporate kind of gap tolerances between the panels if you wanted to. And in this case, I just threw it in this wall over here, and it went ahead and threw in that split marker. So I have it on a bit of a larger scale on this building over here. And then we've got an extra neat little tool if you wanted to break up these walls individually. I know that happened a little fast, but there is a wall splitter tool as well that you can use. That'll break it up for you into individual Revit walls. So the whole reason why I kind of bring this up in the first place is to focus a little bit more on our multi-layer tools. So multi-layer is another way that we automate the framing. It's also one way that we have to add sheathing into the walls. So this is where a lot of the automation can come in. Up until now, I just grabbed a wall, I chose the template I wanted to use and said create. But with multi-layer and with template mapping, you do have options to actually link the templates to the Revit wall types that you have in the project. So I've got my exterior walls set up with some sheathing. It's just another template that I've set up, and it's got my same 6-inch exterior template. And that's basically going to let me grab all these walls. I can run a create command, and it's going to automatically read what I have set up in my map and just frame out everything accordingly. So you can see here, I've got some sheets set up, and we give you some generic families for the sheathing. You can make it your own material. It can be the material that's already existing in the wall. You can create a bunch of different sizes, basically tailor the family to whatever you need and use that in your wall. But just to give you an idea, it can be fairly automated. You can link this up to your Revit wall types, grab a bunch of walls in one go, click a button, and majority of the framing should be done automatically. So another kind of point of interest, I think, in the software, since we're talking about markers a little bit as well. Like I mentioned again, markers are just preloaded information that we bring into Revit. So we have split markers. We also have markers to join panels together. So if you do want to join your walls with a kind of particular configuration, it's usually found in some of our join markers. And the joins are where I have set up with already these arrows that are joined here. So joins are just kind of another point of automation that we have, where I can grab my join. In this case, I've got a corner. I can just say the join command, and it'll recognize that I do have a corner, give me the list of options to choose from. There are some that also include some backing members if that's something that you wanted to add in. I can go ahead and say, okay, I get my little join arrow. And then when I go ahead and frame out these walls, it'll get that configuration. I'll have the backer automatically. So that's something that comes out of the box with the software. Should save you quite a bit of time in terms of joining these walls together. And I also just want to highlight, again, a little bit more of the automation, which is done with something called a rule set. So rule sets are kind of exactly as they sound. They're basically just a list of rules that, again, you can kind of set up according to your project standards. So for joins, in this case, if I know that for every corner condition, I need a certain type of join, it's something I can set up, save to my rule set, and kind of like the mapping idea for templates, it'll enable you to kind of grab a bunch of walls in one go, just grab the rules I want to use, and it'll join the walls automatically. So same idea where you can kind of join your walls together. You can set up those rules. And I do want to talk about the opening markers as well, since that's another big item with the software. Depending on the header conditions that you need, something that does come out of the box as well are these kind of opening markers, where you can set up the types of headers that you'll need. You can control the member sizing for those headers. And this is something that you can incorporate into your templates and really automate as well. So if I did want to put this bearing beam on some windows, it's simple enough, really. I can kind of just grab the windows I want to place and apply it manually. As soon as I go ahead and frame out those windows, I'll get my headers. But one of the main things, again, with these kind of opening markers, is that you can, in fact, set up some rule sets. So again, another just little level of automation, kind of going deeper into the software. But if you did have framing conditions where maybe on every window, let's say 4 to 6 feet wide, if you needed that bearing header, it's something that you can set up, save as a rule, link it to your templates, and then again, the idea that you can kind of mass select your building, say create, and majority of the framing will be done. So last few little things just to touch on for the walls. I also do have a bathroom pod set up. So if you do work, obviously maybe with some modular buildings, I have it in a smaller example here, like a bathroom pod, but it could go for entire levels if you've got an apartment complex, something like that. But basically, I can take this model group. We do have a modular command, and I can go ahead and just copy my framing from one group onto another. So I can keep my original panel labels, keep the same tags, but I'm just going to go ahead and continue the numbering. And it's basically going to copy my framing, like I said, from one pod onto another. It'll copy my joint configurations. However, my door is framed, that will be copied. So if you do work with a lot of duplicate framing, residential work, where essentially the same level is copy pasted up, then there is this modular tool which will help quite a bit and save another extra little bit of time. So one of the last things I just want to touch on for the walls, and then we can maybe move on to the floors a little bit. One of the other nice features that comes with the software are the shop drawings. So if you want to get a lumber list per panel, or if you just want to do like a global takeoff for the entire project, it can be pretty easily done with the shop drawings. And again, the idea is you can kind of set up your shop drawings, you can get your views, how you'd like them, if you want section views, elevation views. You can do different cut lists and sheathing lists. But you kind of pre-set up these views, grab all of your panels, and we automatically place one panel per sheet. And we'll basically do the corresponding views and dimensions all automatically. So to give you an idea, if I go into an elevation, let's say, and I just wanted to make my basic framing elevation, I've got all of these dimension options to choose from. So I can pick just exactly what I want to see. You've got labeling options. So the labeling is also done automatically. You could have things itemized, or they could be grouped together by length. So a bunch of different options to kind of set up your shop drawings. But when all is said and done, all you really have to do is grab a few panels, go ahead and generate the shop drawings, and it'll do the sheets and all the corresponding views automatically. So I do have some extra schedules in here for things like hardware, electrical. It's just telling me right now that since I don't have those on my panels, it's not going to place them. And then I can go ahead, take a look at my sheets. And everything will be auto-populated on the sheet automatically. Let me go ahead and just hide this guy. So that's something that you can, if you didn't want furniture, for example, you can pretty much do with a view template and just hide that automatically. But this is how the shop drawings pretty much come standard. There's also a nice default one that comes out of the box with the software that will pretty much look exactly like this. But you can see here all the dimensioning is done automatically, all the labeling. I've also got the sheeting shown in the same view as my elevation. Section off to the side here. And the main thing I do just want to highlight are the cut lists and the material lists. So for anyone who's not super familiar with Revit, we use Revit schedules to create our cut lists. And with Revit schedules, you can pretty much customize whatever you want to see in that list. So I just have kind of the typical sizing, the labeling, and the length, but you can add pretty much any type of parameter that you can think of. If you want weights, if you want cost per foot, you can add these to your schedule, and we'll just calculate it automatically per panel. And another cool little thing that you can do with Revit is just make this master list. And this is going to auto you frame, and it'll give you a list of everything going on in the project, lumber-wise. And this is what we actually use in our shop drawings. So if you do create this big master list like this, you can just tell it to duplicate this exact list, and then we apply our own filters when we generate the drawings to isolate it per wall. So pretty cool. You can make your big list, and then we'll just filter it out, put it per wall, and slap it on the sheet automatically. So last thing I just want to touch on are the floors. And floors are luckily pretty similar to walls. It's not a huge jump to go from walls to floors. It's really the same idea. This could also work on ceilings as well. I just grabbed my floor object. It's all template based. So I'm just going to grab my template. It's going to use 2x10s, frame it out 2 feet on center. And we basically just look at the bounds of the floor and use that for framing. So one thing I just want to highlight, since it does come out of the box with Pro Wood, there actually is an engineering feature built in. So the engines that we do use right now are BC Calc, which is completely integrated into the software. Forte as well, we use Forte Web. So if you do create a Forte Web login, you can go online and generate the reports and everything from there. And then we also use Sizer and their desktop plugin. So if ever you do have access to these products, their engineering engines do come out of the box with the software again. So you can just set up your building codes, choose your engine. The loading as well is also just set up directly in the software. I can go ahead and just apply the loading to the floor. And then I can go ahead and just run a quick analysis on this guy. And it's basically just going to give me a product list to choose from, which we'll see in a second. So you could always filter out which products you have access to. But in this case, I'll do it kind of very broadly. It breaks it up by groups, so just by different lengths of the joists here, you can kind of see it highlighted in the background. But I'm just going to say use best analysis. I'm going to apply it to all my groups. And then basically, out of all the products I selected, it's going to give me options based on what's passed. So pretty cool. You do have the option to kind of go through your design results, pick your products. If you go to the summary table, you do have some options to get some PDF reports just based on the products that you selected. So you can generate these straight from Revit. And the other, let's close this. The other kind of cool thing with BC Calc in this case is that there is the option to also choose some Simpson hangers. So based on the product that you selected, of course, I can go ahead and pick the products. It will filter it out per group. So I'm just going to select some of those hangers. Let's apply to all. And it'll go ahead and actually place those. And then again, based on my product selection over here, I can say, okay, it'll regenerate my floor panel and add in those hangers. So it swaps it out, loads in the families automatically. And then you do also have these hangers here, just kind of a generic object that's placed, but it'll show you the type. So you could always pull this into a Revit schedule. It'll be quantified in your shop drawings and something that you can always pull in. All right, guys. So that'll be it for me today. I hope you found this informative. And again, for any kind of questions or inquiries, these are our contact details, so feel free to send us an email or give us a call. And that'll be it for me today. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of AU.